I took the DJI Air 3S out for its first flight and I found 7 things that I absolutely love about it and 5 things that I didn't like about it at all. If you're a beginner, I'll explain all the problems that I faced as well as some of the surprises that this drone offered. G'day friends, I originally was going to do a video on the hyperlapse function of the Air 3S and I will do so in the near future, but me and my buddy Shane thought near the beach would be a good place to fly. So off we went, only to be attacked by birds every time I launched the drone above normal roof height. And you would think that it would be seagulls that caused the problem, but in this case you would be wrong. Big black crows. No matter where we moved, they followed and they got within millimeters of the drone quite a few times. And as hyperlapse photography has the drone up in one spot for a long period of time, I was worried it was going to be knocked out of the sky, so I abandoned the whole idea. Nesting season is the worst. Instead, we decided to fly the drone around the car park and test it out. Number 1 on the list of things that I loved about the DJI Air 3S is it's very fast in sports mode. I was really impressed by just how quick it was. It takes off like a bullet, and when you need it to stop, you just pull back on the sticks in reverse and it pulls up really quickly. But keep in mind, in sports mode, all obstacle avoidance is turned off, so this thing is able to fly full speed into a tree or into a wall. And as I purchased this drone with my hard-earned cash, I didn't want to see it obliterated. Number 2, the video quality is amazing. We were filming near the beach right before sunset, and as you can see in this footage, it was getting quite dark. I made a point of not adjusting the camera settings from when it was light so that you could see the true lighting conditions of what it actually was when we were filming. Then instead of manually adjusting the settings to suit the environment like you normally would, I flicked it over to full auto. With drones in low light, what this usually does is it pumps the ISO up and introduces a lot of grain and rubbish in your image. Kind of like this shot here I took with my phone about 2 minutes before. As you can see, it's garbage. But this is what I got at 4K 50 frames per second in full auto mode. And I haven't touched this or edited this at all. The quality of this footage in low light is way above the quality of my Mavic 2 Pro drone. And it should be, as the Mavic 2 Pro is 3.5 years old. But I still was really impressed. A lot of the drones on the market that have obstacle avoidance will have what's called braking. So when it comes close to an obstacle, it'll just stop, which is great. And this one does that by default as well. But if you go into your settings here and change it to bypass, the Air 3S will fly around obstacles. And you have 2 options, normal and nifty. In normal mode, it will fly around objects, but in nifty mode, the movements the drone makes will be smoother, but you have more chance of it crashing. So we tested it in normal mode and flew it towards various objects and even towards this stick that was about as thick as a pen, and it went around it with no problem. Then we just flew it at us. Thankfully, no issues. That's why I'm still here. And all this was done in very low light. Now, tracking in low light. Again, it is great. I will do a much more complicated tracking and obstacle avoidance test soon. But in low light, using the cameras and that LiDAR sensor on the front means it does a really good job. It was after dark here and it tracked Shane perfectly. This is something though. This is just, look at this. Do me a favour, go behind me and hide. Stop. Now move out. Yep. It just picked you again. I shot this image in low light and in auto settings, and it was a bracketed 5 exposure shot. Apart from the floodlights being blown out, it did a pretty good job. And if I flicked it over to Pro mode, it would have been better, but I wanted to see what the drone does out of the box. The only editing I did to these photos was to blend those 5 images together. I wanted to see how smooth this gimbal would be when I was moving the drone around quite violently, as you can see from my phone footage. So this is the drone, and this is what the footage is doing. Really stable considering the movement of the drone itself. Number 7. This is a simple thing, but when you plug the DJI Air 3S into your computer, it is recognized as a drive straight away, and you don't have to turn the drone on at all like in previous models. Now let's go over the things that I didn't like about the DJI Air 3S, and I'll leave what I thought was a massive problem to last, like it was a send it back for a refund kind of massive problem. Number 1, when shooting bracketed images, it takes a long time to process those shots. 17 seconds in fact. Let me explain why this is a problem for me. When I do drone photography for real estate, I shoot 5 bracketed shots and then move to the next position, then shoot another 5, and so on. I can get around a property in a circle in around 6 or 7 minutes, which is great. The problem is, if you have persistent birds chasing your drone, when you get to the next position, you have to wait for the images to process before you can shoot off your next shot. And in that time, the birds catch up and cause you grief. Now, I know the reason for the slow processing is because the drone shoots at 50 megapixels. So in the settings, you have an option to change it from 50 to 12. And processing time on that was 3 seconds. But as you can see from this photo, the quality is average. If you flick it over to the 70mm camera, the processing time was about 7 seconds, which is pretty normal. So my gripe is, if you're going to offer an alternative to 50 megapixels, then why not offer 25 megapixels so you can still get great images in situations like this? Because quite often someone's going to be in a situation where they need to get 5 shots off quickly and then move, and they won't be able to. No aperture adjustment. When in Pro mode, you can change your ISO and your shutter speed, but you can't change your f-stop or your aperture. This isn't a huge issue really, but I got used to that from all the Pro drones I have had before this drone, and I like that functionality. Having full control over your camera is always something I like to have. And number 3 is actually a bit irritating, but it's not a huge problem, but it's a bit irritating for me, is that you can only shoot in 4:3 or 16:9 ratio. In Pro drones, you can shoot in 3:2, which happens to be the standard for real estate. So shooting 4:3 mode is really unusable for that, and 16:9 is too wide. So you have to actually crop every single image you use. It's not a deal breaker for me or anything, but if it's something that's important to you, then it's good to know beforehand. Number 4 is a big one, the downgraded bitrate. When you're recording video with the Air 3S, the bitrate is 130 megabits per second. But the previous model, which is the Air 3, the bitrate is 150 megabits per second. And I'm not sure why they did this, because usually if you have a lower bitrate, you get lower quality footage. For instance, if you have a DJI Neo, the bitrate is 50 megabits per second. And the quality compared to this isn't even in the ballpark. Having said that, I am quite impressed by the quality in the Air 3S, but I don't have an Air 3 to compare it with. Flight speed in normal mode. Now this is the one that would have made me send it back. There are 3 modes you can fly in on the DJI Air 3S. Cine mode, normal mode, and sports mode. Cine mode is just for beginners generally. Normal mode is where most people will fly because you have all the obstacle avoidance and all the safety features. And sports mode is all your safety off and you can go full blast and you're basically flying off the chain. Now when I had the drone in normal mode and we were sitting in the car park, I was flying at about 6 feet off the ground and it was going at a brisk walking pace, even though I was full throttle on the sticks. Now I mainly fly pro level drones for work, so this isn't a feature or anything that I was aware of. So if anyone out there knew this already, let me know in the comments by calling me a complete idiot. I spent a good 5 minutes going through all the settings and couldn't find a way to make it fly faster in normal mode. And as I said to my buddy Shane, how am I going to fly in strong winds or outrun birds in normal mode when it's this slow? I even got on Google but couldn't find an answer there either. Its speed to ascend was still very quick and descending was still decent. It was just when I went forward or back that it was very slow. It was then that I realized that when I got up to about 4 meters off the ground, it flew much faster. It actually flew the speed it was meant to fly at. If there is a setting to turn this off, or if you know how to turn this off, that would be great, because when flying close to the ground for some of the videos I do, I don't want it to be going slow. And the main reason for this is safety, and I'm assuming that the ground sensor is the cause, because when I switched it over to sports mode, there was no issue. As I said, I am an idiot. If you have a DJI Air 3 and you're contemplating upgrading to the Air 3S, but you're not so sure, then you can click this video right here where I go over 9 key differences of the 2 drones that should make your decision a lot easier. See you later.